This is Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs on the Hogstein Network.
Welcome to Seasons of Discontent, Season 6, Episode 12, brought to you by Rick Snyder's Washington, all across social media. And I'm Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
And we're back discussing all things Washington sports and life as part of the mighty Hogstein Network on audio and YouTube here on video. All right, so the draft's over, Matt. Now we're going to the real offseason, which is OTAs and a mini camp, and guys are back in the building again. And so, they just this week started the rookie camp. They come one day if you're a rookie. It's any of the unsigned free agents. All those guys show up to the park, and you get a first look at them, which I like. But they'll start OTAs in May. They go basically 3 days a week for 3 weeks. Then they go for 3 days for a mini camp, which is mandatory in mid-June. And then everybody gets off until they finish, come back for training camp end of July, whatever they're doing there. So, people always say it doesn't make a difference. But yes, it does. The OTAs are really a lot more important. There's no hitting, but you learn the playbook, which is really critical for young players. But you also work on things like Chase Young didn't come last year. He didn't have a second swim move or something to work on. By the season gets going, it's hard to learn anything in the season because you're just basically, you play, you recover, you learn a couple of things, you play again, you recover, you learn a couple of things. There's not a lot of new stuff that goes on during the season. This is it. This is the time to figure it out. And the weather's not so bad, so it's usually Nat City at the out at Ashburn. Man, the gnats are so bad in the spring.
Well, the gnats are going to be bad this spring. You're right.
Yeah, the problem is those gnats, which those of us in DC know are like microscopic flies that drive you nuts. Because the practice fields are right by a little creek, so it's just crazy how it is. I hate that.
I was more referring to Nelson Cruz and Josh Bell and Patrick Gordon being bad this summer.
At least this year we won't have the cicadas flying at us kamikaze.
That's true.
So life's getting better. The pandemic's almost over. The cicadas are gone. Man, we're doing.
So with OTAs, what was the report that came out about Terry? He's not coming to voluntary stuff. He's only coming to organized the stuff that he has to be there because he doesn't want to get hurt or something like that.
Well, especially he's not going to participate so much on the on-field stuff because somebody can get hurt in those things. I mean, it does happen. Not very often, but it does happen where somebody, comes down like Reuben Foster, came down. Yeah. It's just falling down and somebody lands on you or something sometimes. But he's going to classes and all that. So that's not a big deal. He's in conditioning and he's just not going to be on that field for like 90 minutes. Sometimes he will have to do the mini camp or else you get fined for that.
Yeah. So, from what we've heard too, hasn't the guys have been catching from Carson Wentz by them all, not team organized. It was organized by Wentz. So, hopefully he's already developed a little bit of a rapport with Carson.
That whole thing is the rule is the coach can't be there.
Right.
On the field, but you can go out and play ball with anybody you want.
Yeah. So, after the draft, of course, you saw Trey Turner's coming back to DC, right?
Yeah. He looked like he gained some weight.
Yeah. He gained a little bit of weight and he switched sports. Now he plays offensive line for the NFL. Well, but I did want to ask you this, and I see this a lot on Twitter, and a lot of people make jokes about the Commanthers. Oh, we're the Commanthers. And, back in the day, we were the Jetskins because we were getting all the New York Jets players. Let me ask you this. Does it bother you? Like it bothers some people? It doesn't bother me because here's my thing. These guys are going to end up being role players or, in Trey Turner's got a chance to start. Norwell's probably going to start. But there's familiarity. They respect the hell out of the offensive line coach that came from Carolina. Those are plug and play guys. Those are guys that don't really need training camp or OTAs or stuff like that. They just kind of have to learn the guys that are around them now and the tendencies of the guys that stand next to them. Does it really bother? It seems to bother a lot of people. Yeah,
I mean, it's not an unusual thing. Like when George Allen came, he had so many LA Rams on the team, they called them the Ramskins.
Yeah.
When Norv came, he brought 7 Dallas players with him. Spurrier signed a bunch of Florida guys.
Mm-hmm.
Question is, are they any good? Most of the time, well, the Ramskins were, but Norv's Cowboy guys, they were nothing particular, and Spurrier's guys were horrible.
Yeah, and I mean, we got Santana for Lav Coles out of the Jetskins era, so I mean, it's not too bad.
Coaches are animals of habit. That's why they keep a lot of their same assistants and staff, and they like familiarity, and they know what that player can do. Maybe there's a loyalty to some of the reserves of trying to keep them in the league another year or so.
I kind of compare it because they talked about this on 106.7. I kind of compared it to this with 106.7. When Chad Dukes was released from his contract, the afternoon drive hours were open. What did they do? They didn't bring in some Joe Blow from Dallas or from Minnesota to fill his role. They went to familiarity and they elevated Grant and Danny, and then they brought B. Mitch back, who had been on 106.7. He'd been in the DC area doing radio, and JP Finley's been on their radio station. He was on weekly as a guest. I mean, they brought familiarity onto the radio station to keep the continuity. That's kind of like what I could kind of compare that to what, Ron and company are doing.
Yeah. 106.7 didn't bring their columnist on board though.
Nah, they could have.
I'm everybody's favorite guest for free, but it happens. I mean, it's always about who you know in life. And I've hardly ever been involved in any kind of job that I didn't know somebody at the place and referred to or whatever. I mean, my whole life has been like that. Mm-hmm. It makes more friends. They're all dead now, I think, and that's why I'm standing alone. But they're all retired or gone. It's just, so coaches are no different on that. But the question is, were they any good? Well, the Panthers weren't any good when Ron got fired, or else Ron wouldn't have gotten fired. Mm-hmm. So I mean, find a guy here and there to help you, sure. He's got a few, and he's got his coaches, and he's got his own group. The only problem I have is more in the front office. When you bring everybody together as a group think, and they all want to think like you don't get outside the box with things. And I know they'll all say, oh no, we fight about things all the time.
No, they don't. Yeah. But at the end of the day, Ron has final say. And that's kind of been the issues with the Shanahan era. Even with Gibbs, I don't think Gibbs had anybody to check him. Gibbs 2-0. He didn't have a Charlie Casserly or a Bobby Beathard that could come to him. And, I always hear the story, and you've told me this story a couple of times, is, Gibbs didn't want to draft Jacoby or didn't want to bring Joe Jacoby in. I think it was Jacoby. And Beathard said, no, we need to take this guy, Joe Jacoby. And I mean, look, it turned out pretty damn well, but I think that's what Ron has. That was one of the negatives that I had. And I know he's a friend of yours, but when they hired Marty Herney was with him in Charlotte. I mean, it didn't really necessarily turn out pretty well down there for them. And then you're just going to bring that back up here. Ron doesn't have anybody to tell him no. And I think that kind of goes back to what we talked about last show with that second round draft pick. He had his eyes dead set on that DT from Alabama, and they took him because he didn't have anybody that would say no. He doesn't have a Kyle Smith, which funny, he mentioned in his after draft wrap up, he mentioned Kyle Smith, which I thought was funny, but he doesn't have a guy like that that's going to say, hey, Ron, let's look in this direction instead.
It didn't have a Dan Snyder to try and point him toward the way of whatever. I mean, I said
Dan still has a cell phone.
Yeah, but there's no way in the world Dan knew who Federian Mathis was.
Yes. There's no way. He probably didn't even know who he didn't even know who Jahan Dotson was. He probably saw Jay Dotson and thought, oh man, we drafted Josh Doxson again.
Yeah. And now I have to learn how to respell Dotson after having to learn it, put in a C. Now I got to learn not to put it in.
Yeah, I know your iPhone autocorrects to Doxson all the time.
But Dan was always about the first round pick. He didn't know anything else about the rest. But maybe he would have taken Kyle Hamilton. But Dan's on double secret probation right now. So and I don't think Tanya has an opinion on these things. So yeah, Ron's the man. And sometimes that backfires. How many coaches have we seen that always wanted to be the full power and then succeed? Very few. I remember Holmgren, man. he thought I have to be it. And then, we went to Seattle. It didn't work. Parcells, was never as good by himself.
Yeah. Holmgren won the one Super Bowl in Green Bay with Brett Favre. Yeah. And we went to Seattle, had full control, did nothing. I guess Andy Reid has full control in Kansas City, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, you're BFFs with him. Wouldn't you know this?
Well, we talk about a lot of things, but not so much that. Mostly Hawaiian stuff we discuss and we trade off.
Did you help him? Did you help him with his draft board?
Well, kind of, yeah, but I'm not allowed to talk about that.
I got you.
Yeah, he's only when he comes on Rick Snyder's Wash the next time we'll do it. I did that. I did that recently. The other day. So, yeah, me and Andy. But I'm losing weight, so I don't look as much like Andy as I once did. We both do wear those Hawaiian shirts. I wear them out of spite. When you get to be 60, you don't care anymore. Right. Just how it fits. That's just how it works now. So I passed that. So I might wear them to practice just to bug people.
Hey, they sell a Commanders one. They sell a burgundy and gold one. You should wear it to practice.
Wow, can't afford that stuff, man. It's too much.
I know, it's probably $90.
And a totally irrelevant thing. Tailgate Ted wrote today that they got a dozen donuts for like $4 or something, and he's like, "What a steal!" And I said, "What are you talking about? How much? I haven't had a donut in 5 years because of diabetes, but how much are donuts?" And he said, "Oh, they're normally like $15 a dozen." And I'm like, "What?"
Not at 7-Eleven. They used to be 69 cents a donut.
I know. I was sitting there going, "What donuts are you eating, Ted?" I said, "I know you pay $14 for a beer at the stadium, but are really donuts $1.25 each?"
Ted's going to Duck Donuts and spending all that money.
Man, that is crazy. All right, training camp. People ask me, where's training camp? The answer is I don't know, because I checked on this and they still don't have an answer. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's May 1st. You don't have an answer on training camp? You usually know in February. But this year, they're not sure they're going back to Richmond yet. There's talk about they want to do a scrimmage against another team for 3 days. And they may have to go to that team first, because not a lot of teams want to go to Richmond. Ron's not a big fan of going to Richmond just for a few days. So if he goes away, they'll just finish camp at Redskin Park or wherever we call it now. And there wouldn't be any fans probably there. They probably have a fan day at the stadium like they did last year. Mm-hmm. So, it's kind of just up in the air on all these things. Kind of a weird thing because, until they get the stadium thing figured out, then they know they're going to switch training camp sites there too. But they might do Richmond, but they just don't want to do it for a few days.
Yeah.
And you know what this Saturday is?
Yes, I do.
It is. Well, that's not how it works, but it's something like that. The Kentucky Derby, which I used to cover for 20 years. I still look around. So to all my exclusive offer to all of our Seasons of Discontent fans, I've got a winner for you. So melt down your gold and cash in your bonds. We got money and it's all coming back. Because I'm going to take Cyberknife at 20-1. So you bet $1, you get 20. You bet $1,000, you get $20,000. I get 10% of your wins and none of your grief. So make sure you bet Cyberknife over Epicenter. And Taba is a really nice one. That's a Baffert horse. It's not under his name on there. And maybe Barber Road. So all those horses, bet them in different ways. You'll make all this money and you'll come back next week rich.
I'm gonna take that one horse. I don't know. I know nothing about horse racing. The only reason I know it's the Kentucky Derby is because I got married on Kentucky Derby Day.
Oh man! All right. Well, she lost her tickets, but you did okay. So, all right. Well, I guess we gotta get out of here then. So, Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Seasons of Discontent on the Hogstye Network.